Beautiful people. How are you doing? Please say hi in the comment section and let me know where you are joining me from. Hi, everyone. My name is Flora Bezi. I am a digital accessibility expert and founder at Linoratech. Linoratech is simply an incredible company with the value and mission to support tech leaders, professionals, understanding and creating digital products that are inclusive and accessible to everyone, including clients or employees with visible or invisible disabilities. Now, when we talk about digital technology or digital product, I am referring, for example, to website, to application, to digital documents such as PDF and so much more. But you know what? Enough about me talking and presenting or introducing myself. Today's topic is all about the future of accessibility, and we are going to dive inside legislation for 2026 and WCAG 3.0. I have the perfect guest speaker to come and shed some light around. Oh goodness, I am super excited. I don't know if you can feel it, but I definitely am excited. All right, quickly before we move on, I want to self describe because sometimes in my audience we have people who are blind or people who have visual impairments. I am a Black woman. I am rocking right now like braids that are brown and I would say white a little bit. I am wearing a black jumper. Not that you care about it, but who knows? All right. And so I want to say hi to everyone. Please help me welcome my guest speaker. His name is Eduardo Amen. Eduardo is so incredible. I had a chance actually to work with him years ago in a company named, right now, the name of the company is Level Access. For some of you who knows well, I'm pretty sure a lot of you probably have heard about Level Access. If yes, can you just put Level Access in the comment section? Trust me, we can see you live, and I am gonna bring actually forward Eduardo. I'm gonna bring you in. Please say
All
hi to
right.
Eduardo. Hi,
Hello,
Eduardo.
Flora. So great to see you. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, I am super excited to have you here. I see a few people saying hi in the comment section. Please don't feel shy. This is an open, open show in a way that feels secure, it in a way that feel really, welcoming. So don't feel shy. Just say hi in the comment section and let me know where you're joining me from. I see Zeri who said hello. Hopefully that's how you pronounce your name. I love the name, by the way. I see Peter. Peter, hi, Peter from Montreal. He said hi, Flora. And I see also, oh, Peter said hello and welcome, Eduardo. Oh, you are so kind, my friend. I see another one. It says LinkedIn user who said, hi, I'm Rohan from India. Hi, Rohan. We're so happy
Hey,
you're
Ron, how
here.
are you?
Again, if you have any question at any point in time, just feel free to drop those questions in the comment section. I promise you we will address those questions. If you feel like you're hearing something that validate your thought, or maybe you're learning, by listening to Eduardo, just give us a reaction. Give us a thumbs up, comment. We will take everything. Eduardo, back to you now.
Absolutely. Well, Flora, first of all, a little introduction for those of you that do not know me and your audience. I'll self you describe as well. I am a middle-aged Latino man wearing a headset on my head, reading glasses. I have a little bit of a gray hair coming up, wearing a short sleeve. It's blue with light blue stripes. And, I'm so happy to be here. Again, we have been talking about, doing this for many months. So again, happy to be here. A little bit about myself and my history. Um, some of you know this, but, I actually went to school for economics. So I'm an economist by trade, and I have a couple of master's degrees one in accounting and finance, the other one in international management. Uh, but, life, may throw you a curveball, and I got thrown a curveball back in 1997. Flora, you know this. Um, I was just going by my day, and then all of a sudden, I lose consciousness. I end up in a hospital.
Wow.
They had to induce coma because they had to actually open up my skull because I had a brain aneurysm. So fast forward 3 months later, I was out of the hospital, a lot of physical therapy, learned how to walk again. And
Wow.
then things actually changed for me. I was looking at life differently. And
Mhm.
that's how I got into disabilities, working with people with disabilities, reasonable accommodations first, then doing a lot of work with the federal government, the Department of Defense, Computer Electronic Accommodations Program, and then segueing into digital accessibility about 15 years ago when we first met, Flora. So I'm just really happy and honored to be part of this community, right? And trying to make a difference as well.
Oh, I love it. Thank you so much for giving us a little bit of context around your journey. And I am so grateful that you're still here with us because having a stroke and then having to shift your perception of life and having an impact now that is actually helping a lot more people is just incredible. Thank you so much for sharing. I see a few people saying hi. Again, if you want to say hi, if you want to share something or ask something, feel free to drop it in the comment section. I see John said, "Hi, Eduardo from New York. Good to see you. Look forward for the great talk." Oh, thank you so much, John. I see also Samyukta from London. Hi, Samyukta. So happy you're here. Don't feel shy. Don't feel shy. So let's talk about, sometimes I know many people know that, but some people don't. Accessibility compliance is part of legislation, which means that it is a requirement. It's actually part of the Title II of the American with Disability Act. Now, I understand that in the audience, many people are from different countries, but the good thing is that many countries have kind of the similar legislation with a little bit of nuance. So today we're going to talk a little bit around, we're going to talk more about ADA legislation, but just go and check the legislation in Canada, in UK, or wherever you are, in India. Just check. Sometimes there is just a little nuance, but I like to bring the awareness here with Eduardo because that can actually help you be aware of the information or maybe be ahead of the curve. So, Eduardo, very briefly, can you tell us what is Title Two of the ADA Act?
Absolutely. Definitely, Flora, and I think you bring up a very important point. Some of the advancements that we've seen in digital accessibility are being driven by legislation. Fortunately or unfortunately, it doesn't matter how you want to look at it. So we just celebrated the 34th anniversary of the American with Disabilities Act, July 26th, 34th. And again, the ADA, as it is known, it is a civil rights uh, legislation, right? And it's broken down into three main titles. So Title One is covers employment very broadly, right? Title Two, which is the one that we're going to talk about more in detail later on, it's public entities and public transportation. Title Three, which is the one that is very litigious for the last few years, which covers public accommodations and commercial facilities. Title Four covers telecommunications. And finally, Title Five, which is miscellaneous, anything that is not covered by the other four titles. So, in a nutshell, that's what it is. And keep in mind, when the ADA was first passed back in 1990, digital accessibility or digital was really starting or beginning, right? So it was not covered back then, but now with the newer legislation, they're trying to address all of that.
That's really good to know because I was even going to ask you, when did this legislation started and what is the current state right now? What are people doing right now?
Absolutely, yes. So again, let's go back a little bit to 2001. I think it started with Section 508 of the Rehabilitation Act, right, which is a procurement legislation. for the federal government, right? That's how it all started. But the last one that just came out, April the 24th, 2024, it actually has to do with state and local government. And this is a very interesting one because a lot of the states were caught a little bit off guard. There are some that were actually ahead of the curve, if you will,
Yeah.
but there's some that were really, really caught off guard. And let's actually list some of those agencies that are actually covered by this new legislation that came out in April. Obviously, state and local government, that's straightforward. But guess what? Some public schools are also included.
Mhm.
Community college, public universities. I didn't know this, but I just found out that University of Maryland here in where I live,
Yes.
it's also covered by this legislation. So some of them have had to actually, reinforce whatever they were doing around digital accessibility, right? I know that the state of Maryland has actually recently launched an accessibility officer training for all of the different departments within the state so they can get up to speed on the new legislation.
Oh, I love that. So basically, what you're saying is that the legislation has been here for a long time, and it has rules that needs to be compliant with.
Right.
But many organization or agency were not all following the same way. Some were,
Hmm.
yes, following and meeting the compliance to some extent, but some were maybe felt like that was not part of what they have to do. And I've heard that in my own journey for accessibility, where I will speak with an organization and they're like, we don't have any client with a disability, so we don't have to comply. Or they will say, oh, there's no law around accessibility, so we don't have to comply. But I love the fact that now the government and the legislations are very clear as to what agency or company need to comply with accessibility. And you mentioned a few of them, like you said, government agency, public transportation, and school as well, which probably were trying to escape at some point. Uh,
Right.
Health also. I mean, there's a lot, but there is one thing that sometimes people tend to forget: vendors. Can you talk about the third party vendors? Because sometimes organizations are actually,
Yes.
leveraging vendors to create some of those digital products for them. Do vendors have also to comply with such legislation?
Oh yes, oh yes, absolutely, Flora. And sometimes we forget, right, that sometimes portals that are being developed for states and local governments are being developed by contractors and third-party companies. So they do have to ensure that that final product is accessible. And the guideline that they need to meet is WCAG 2.1, level A and level AA, the 50 success criteria within those standards or guidelines. And it's very interesting because I think it works both ways. Both agencies or those that are covered by this new regulation, they need to make sure that they incorporate some language, especially when they are putting out an RFP. They need to make sure that they're requesting that particular solution meets those exact guidelines, right? So that's very important. And also, just before I pass the baton to you, what's included? It covers anything web related. Mobile apps are covered. Okay, documents as well are covered. So any multimedia. So just to give you some examples.
Yeah, but that's fantastic because that gave us a better understanding. That means that first of all, you mentioned that the standards that they need to comply with, it's going to be 2.1, and then also it's going to be for website application, like native application, and also documents like PDF or Word or anything that you will have to share eventually with clients, or maybe you will have to share with even employees with a disability. I love that. I think that sometimes people often think that accessibility compliance is not for them. And but I'm very happy again. I mean, I'm excited that right now there is clear, legislation that mandate companies to comply with accessibility. The other thing that we spoke about, Eduardo, is the fact that there is also upcoming changes in the standards for the WCAG. You mentioned that we are now heading toward WCAG 3.0. But before we get to that, can you just explain from your experience, from your perspective, what is WCAG and how are we getting to 3.0?
Absolutely, yes. Obviously, technologies evolve. We are more mobile oriented these days, and we want to make sure that we keep up with those changes, right? Technology changes. So therefore, the accessibility guidelines need to be adapted to those changes. So that's what's been happening. It started WCAG 1.0 in 99. Then it's been taking a lot of time to catch up with the new technologies. So what the working group is actually trying to do, and Mr. John Kilworth in the audience, he's actually part of that working group, and he may be able to share some light as well. We understand that they're trying to get ahead of the curve, right? So the first public working draft that came out of that group was back in 2021 January, and since then they've been releasing working drafts. There is about a total of 6 after that. The latest one came out on May the 28th of this year. And again, they're trying to incorporate some of the new ideas that will align with the latest technologies that are being used out there. And, I can share some of the changes that are coming up that they are thinking about incorporating moving forward, which is they're actually changing some of the language that they're using. For instance, WCAG 2.0 uses success criteria. They want to change that for outcomes instead, which is a little bit clearer, more plain language. WCAG 2 uses techniques, right? WCAG 3.0 wants to use methods instead, right? And 2.0 uses understanding. When we go to the quick reference guide for 2.0, they want to change that to how to. So sounds more like solution based. So some of the changes that are coming up.
Oh, I'm excited because I think that definitely we wouldn't want to keep on going with obsolete, guidelines or criteria that are probably not serving anymore because of technology always evolving, improving, and changing. So one thing that is interesting is that many people have been saying, we just discussed the legislation for 2026 coming, right? With all the companies properly listed. Now they know who they are. And they know they have to comply. But what one thing I've noticed, and this is me just asking you your personal opinion based on your experience. Of course, they will have to choose what they have to choose eventually.
Right.
But with this legislation asking companies to meet WCAG 2.1 level A and double A by 2026 or by 2027, right?
Right.
You just spoke about WCAG 3.0 upcoming, and it's probably gonna, get published within maybe before 2026 or maybe before 2027.
Right.
What do you think
Right.
will happen?
Yes, I've always questioned that. Obviously, legislation has to go to Congress through Congress here in the U.S. There is a lot of bureaucracy involved. I'm not pointing fingers, but I just wish that we could do this more efficiently. And I've always thought that there should always be a clause that automatically upgrades to the latest WCAG standard or technical requirement, maybe, as soon as it comes out, and maybe give 6 months before actually enforcing. But I think it should be more automatic. That's me speaking, and I've shared my thoughts with other people. But I think that could be a solution that could potentially resolve that lack of. Again, there's always lots of gaps from when it comes out and then when it gets implemented into the regulation. Sometimes 2-3 years Who
It can
knows?
take time. It can take
Yes,
time. So yes, definitely, I appreciate that opinion because you're right. For guidelines, even to get approved, and for them to be passed into the legislation, this takes time. I mean, I think that WCAG 2.2, no, 2.3, was it 2.3? 2.2 that
2.2.
came out, 2.2 that came out, I believe last November or somewhere in
October. Mhm,
November, October,
mhm,
November,
mhm.
has not been embraced yet, but we know that it's coming. But now we're talking about 3.0. So there is a lot of movement, there is a lot of adaptation, there is a lot of improvement, and this has to do with, the technology also changing, the needs for people also changing, and also a better understanding of the disability community, right? Because
Absolutely.
with the WCAGs at the beginning, it was taking care of a different set of disability. Then 2.1 came with mobile and cognitive disability. So there is always an improvement. So I'm just saying that so that, you know, the audience doesn't get scared about the fact that WCAG is always changing. The change is normal. We all changing as well. I mean, I'm super, super surprised whenever I see my kids and I'm like, oh, they're already so grown up. They know this. But it's the same thing with the legislation and regulation out there because things are always improving for the better, but there will always be opportunities to improve even more because you mentioned that a few gaps could be, lingering somewhere. One thing I want to ask you, because you have been in the world of disability advocacy, you have been in the world of accessibility, and you have been also championing and having more impact in big organizations such as Level Access. I mean, just to name a few, you are also a chief accessibility officer at Disability in DC Metro, and so much more. Do you think that right now organizations are well equipped to embrace fully accessibility? Or let me rephrase that question. What can organization do to be well equipped, according to your experience, to properly comply with accessibility?
Absolutely. That's a great question, Flora. And I think, it goes, I guess, from the largest to the medium size to the small organizations. I think they need to realize that accessibility is not going anywhere. So they better start embracing it. And, it should be part of, as they have an HR department or as they have an IT department, they should embrace accessibility and make it part of those departments because, again, that's not going anywhere. And remember, sometimes organizations, I feel that they are under pressure to, oh, I must be compliant. I always say, you know what? It's better to make progress than anything else. Just one step at a time. It doesn't matter as long as you go in the right direction. I think that's the way to go. And obviously, recommendations like training. The IAAP, the International Association of Accessibility Professionals, is a great resource if you want to get started in a career of digital accessibility or learn more. Obviously, and there is another area that I really get a great pleasure, which is the mentorship approach, right? If you can get a mentor that has been in the industry for a while, try to make sure that you find one, and then internally in organizations, find that champion internally that has lived through a disability or knows about digital accessibility, so that can permeate through the organization.
Well, I love that. I mean, you dropped some interesting nugget, like you dropped some great bullet points. I want to ask the audience, have you heard about WCAG? Some people are very new in the world of accessibility and disability. Can you just please write a WCAG in the comment section if you have heard about WCAG, or maybe you are an advocate for accessibility, so you probably know about it. Just let me know in the comment section by putting WCAG. If this is new to you, can you just put beginner? And that's also great. So I see, who is that someone, Sanjita from UK? I believe she probably just say hi. Or let me know, Sanjita, if you have heard about WCAG. Just put WCAG in the comment section. So you said and you shared a lot, Eduardo. One thing that really popped in my mind is education. When we don't know what we don't know, we are bound to create, limitations. We are bound to create barriers, right? But when we start learning and opening up our mind to the possibility of creating more inclusive and accessible product for all, we start learning about the different tips, regulations, and that apply to everyone. Right now, we're talking about the, WCAG, but accessibility is not just for digital product. It's even bigger than that. You mentioned HR. How do you hire people with disability to have representation? Because once you have
Sure.
representation within your company, you are prone to embrace and to create more products that are inclusive and accessible because you have one person with a lived experience. you know Someone told me before, Flora, as a leader, I know a lot and I can do a lot in accessibility, but I will always fail. And I was like, what? What is she talking about? And she said, I can only see things from my own perspective, from my own biases. And the team I am working with are often like me. So having, people with disabilities joining, circle like the
So that
HR, the developers, the designers, the leadership may bring a different sense and different perspective, and this is going to be improving so much more. I see a few people commenting, so I see John said correct, well done. And I see Sanjita, okay, Sanjita said that before, so sorry. John said WCAG. I see Samyukta said WCAG as well. And I see Sam. Oh, Sam, how are you doing? She said, definitely. So please, guys, you know, I have noticed also that the audience actually has incredible experiences around accessibility and sometimes even lived experience. Can you share with me one thing that you've seen in your experience that you feel can help organization meet accessibility compliance? Eduardo and I are sharing, and we have just a little bit of time to share, but I know Eduardo can talk more on the subject. Because usually for me, Eduardo, when I receive a pushback for accessibility, it's usually because people will say, um, they are not required to do that from a compliance, but you just clarify the whole thing. It is a legislation, and some people can get sued for not meeting that legislation, if I'm understanding correctly, Eduardo, right?
Absolutely, and you also touch on something that is super important, and some of the members of the audience will know this, but incorporating people with disabilities in your work, it actually drives innovation, right? And that's super important to keep in mind. Some of the biggest discoveries have been because there was somebody with a disability as part of that process. And always remember, I mean, progress over perfection, as someone from our industry always says, but also, make sure that accessibility is incorporated from the very beginning of the process. I mean, face it, it's important to always be thinking about accessibility from the very beginning of the process. Whatever you're designing a product, making a change in the physical space, whatever the case may be, think about that. Yeah.
Definitely. Oh, I love it. Okay, we are on top of the time is over. literally the time is over. I don't know why it goes so fast. But Eduardo, where can people connect with you? And please, people, if you like what you heard, just give us a thumbs up, a heart, or any reaction. We will take it. Eduardo, where can people connect with you?
Yes, absolutely. Please use my LinkedIn profile. Just you search me by my name. Would love to follow up with you, and I will put in my email address as well in the chat, so you can shoot me an email. So yes, absolutely. Would love to hear from any of you in the audience, please.
Perfect. I'm excited. I am wishing everyone a wonderful Friday. I host a session every Friday talking about accessibility, diversity, digital product, and so much more. So join me next Friday and let's have fun. Eduardo, thank you so much again for joining me, and I will see you shortly.
Thanks for having me. Bye,
Bye,
everybody.
everyone.